Okay, we are back to do some more rounding, but this time we're going to focus on rounding to the nearest hundreds. Now, for some people, the hundreds is actually easier to round to than the tens, but that's just for some people. So again, you got to be thinking in terms of hundreds. So you would go ahead and count out loud right now to 1,200. Also could be called 1,200. So go ahead and count by hundreds out loud till you get to 1,200, or you could say it 1,200. So go ahead and count out loud now. 0, 100, 200, 300. Okay, and you continue all the way until you get to 1,200 or 1,200. Okay, great job. I heard you counting out there. So now if we have the number 245, you could do it the number line method, where you have 0, 100, 200, 300, and so on and so forth. And you need to figure out where does that number fall on your number line of hundreds. But it's also important to have some knowledge of the halfway points between 0 and 1, so it can help you decide whether if it falls in between here, you would round down to 0. If it falls in between here, you would round to 100. If it falls between here, you would round to 100 also. If it falls between here, you would round to 200. If it falls between here and here, you would round to 200. And here and here, you would round to 300. So these points in the middle are 50, 150, and 250. So that extra bit of knowledge really makes it much easier for me to know where I'm going to round my numbers to. Because even if it's right smack dab in the middle, it always rounds up. Yesterday, Aiden asked an awesome clarifying question, and he said, so if it's 49 or below, it's going to round to 0. And he's right. Just like if it were 149 down to 100, he would round down to 100. Or 249 and below would round to 200. So 245, though, would be somewhere between 200 and 250. And it doesn't really matter where, as long as I know that it's between those, because then if I know it falls in between this section, I know it's going to round down to the nearest 100, which is 200. So 245 would actually be right here. It's close to 250, but it's not quite there yet. And only once it hits 250 or above will you round up to 300. So in this case, 245 is rounded down to 200. One. Okay, 567. I can count by hundreds pretty easily. 0, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. So I know I don't need to start making my number line until I at least get to 500 and 600. I'm not going to make my number line even any bigger than that right now, because I know 567 falls between 500 and 600. And I'm thinking in terms of hundreds, and I just need to choose the closest 100. Again, I'm going to use my extra knowledge of knowing what falls right in the middle between 500 and 600. And I know that's 550, 550. Now you need to think about, does 567 fall over here, or does it fall over here? Well, if I count up 510, 520, 530, 540, 550, I haven't hit any 560s yet. So I know 560, 567 is going to be somewhere around there. Maybe a little bit further that way, but somewhere around there. So then that tells me that the closest 100, or the nearest 100, 567 is to, the nearest 100 is 600. So 567 would round to 600. Now remember, even if our number were 550 and it falls right smack dab in the middle, you're always going to round it up. Okay, now it's time for you to try your own rounding to the nearest hundredths. So go ahead and work through these. Try to do these the number line way, like I just showed you. Counting by 100ths, knowing that 50 is the halfway point between any hundreds, and see if you can round to the nearest hundred by charting it out, making your own number line, counting by hundred. Okay, so go ahead, work through these number line ways. Go ahead, check in after every single one with our mathematicians. And for these, let's change it up. Let's do the mathematicians of Caden, Jaden, and Alice. Okay, so these will be our mathematicians that you check in with to make sure you are doing it correctly. Or if you need help, you can check in with them, or of course, any other friend around the room. Good luck, and I know you'll do great.